What's going on, guys? Time for a little YouTube recap. Low volume, low day. We've been calling it since last week. It's going to be an interesting week. A lot of the times we see grind ups towards all-time highs. We actually had some volatility pre-market, but I do want to cover some things that we just talked about, went over, and some small scalp trades, and mostly just small trades. So here on the old X here, we had talked about these back testing on Q. So back test, watch on QQQ, here for shorts. Watch now till open for these levels, then grind back up. Okay, so watch for these levels to hit and then grind back up potential. Okay, pre-market and the watch, that's what we had posted here. Excuse me. On the NQ, had some volatility come in way ahead of time of this, right? So what you see usually, especially in a gap up like we had overnight, is just nothing, right? Big old scam sandwich like this. No, not a big deal. That's no big deal. But when the volatility started snapping back and forth, started creating candles here around like 5 in the morning, that sounds about right, 6 in the morning, then we just had this random smash all the way up. Well, not a big deal because we are trading under golden pocket rules here, and we said it was going to come up to 21,068, and then 21,008 would have been the bonus round of a gap that I have up here from a long time ago. So 108 is still on deck, but let's cover the first couple things that we had seen here on the NQ. Now, with the volatility that came in, we left the gap, right? Nice big old gap from yesterday's highs. So this runaway in pre-market, right? It's supposed to be nice and slow and grindy on a low volume week, and then it does some pre-market craziness like this. That's why we said it was on a short watch until open, like closer to open, right? So you don't get chopped up by these moves where you short into low volume and then you get within 30 minutes of open and then it does something like this. Then you get snaked every single time. It's all about confirmation trading, right? So on the daily chart, let's move here and show you where the golden pocket was. We had this guy right here. And then in previous videos, if you've seen on our breakdowns, I had a over under for this doji right here. And we made a channel for the body. Then we discussed in the video that we would go over under, right? Short or long, depending on confirmation. On the intraday, we obviously sent it to the short side right here from the doji, and we were going to get continuation from that. Now, the next candle, this big guy for the wash, that continuation candle left a no golden pocket tag for this guy right here at 11:14. So what do? You had a high-low fib box. We pointed it to the downside, and we waited for the price action to come back inside the candle in order to have a push to the golden pocket. So if you zoom out a little bit, this is what it looks like. Here's our fat little candle in question. He pushed down to the 2618, walked himself up to the 1618 from last week, and all these craziness supports were developed off this guy. That's up for another video, though. We have already covered that all last week. Check out our recap videos. And then today, ranging into it, look where this candle's fib box is, right? So anything above 20,946.25, we move to the golden pocket that has been tagged today, but it was a no tag way back here, right? 2 weeks ago. So we knew that the price action was going to run back up here if we completed an over under support, right? We had the continuation over under the 10 SMA. It broke through the 10 SMA. Then we said it usually loops and swoops. We're in the loop before the swoop back here, okay? So right now we looped the 10 SMA. We talked about that in our moving average ride systems there, so check that out if you want. We actually gapped over the 10 SMA, which is funny because this was a directional for us. After it breaks the 10, we need to retrace to the 10 before it goes back, and it gapped over it, then came back to the 10 SMA because the algos love to connect those dots, right? So as we moved into this NQ chart, that's what we were looking for. That's it. So you see right here, that level on the no golden pocket tag is 20,946.25. Bumped it here, bumped it, bumped it, bumped it, bump, 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 launched itself into the untagged golden pocket, and then it launched itself back down. So that was a big thesis that we had played out from the QQQ, right? And let's talk about our zones that we posted on X. So on the QQQ here, we have those similar levels, what I just posted beforehand, where I said watch near open or closer to open, so don't get scammed by this huge pre-market up. And then we wanted to wash down. Well, those levels that we posted were 508.34, and the top of the red channel where those arrows were on X. Well, there you go. There's your targets right there. And then we had intraday made another target because it broke all the way down to the daily gap and broke all the way down to the red gap because we have gaps open still here on QQQ on that daily chart that have not been filled to that side. So if you go to the QQQ side of things, first gap right here, now we're above it, right? So we started above it. So this is one of the biggest things that happen with gaps and magnets, especially for daily outcomes. When we pushed into the red zone right here, we missed the gap fill in 11:21. We did not fill it on that candle. 11:22. We did not fill it on that candle. Monday, all right, 11:25 opens up way up here above the gap that we need tagged. Both of them, this one and this one. Now that is the third gap, right? Fourth gap, sorry, not third. Fourth gap, 1, 2, 3, right? Or that's the attempts. So we have this massive attempted gap. 1, 2, the common gap today is the third. Attempt 4, it ain't making it, right? So we open up into, again, you're going to notice the exact same fib here. Here's the candle that caused the gap, 11:14. Fibonacci box on the QQQ. Tag of golden pocket, right? It's all there. So those golden pocket, those fibs, you just wait for Fibonacci to hit. First tag metrics, which we always teach here. It worked out very well. So let's look at it in live action here. Came into the live trading, and the amount of times that the market holds 3 open daily gaps at the same level price action. We talked about that Friday, how that fill was going to happen on SPY. Same thing on the Qs here. So we just called a grind up for my team before I got off stream because we are coming into those daily gap fills. So what I just called here for a day trade, for this to be support and this to be support as we wash back down. As we came into that, we changed thesis to closing the gap right here because we had came down and snapped right here. And I'm like, well, we're so close. We're probably going to magnet to yesterday's highs and then bounce. Well, we got magnet to yesterday's highs. That was our change of bias, right? It pops up over the 10 and it literally just holds this 10 ugly, right? And I said, just before I left off of our live premium stream, I said, just go long above the 10 SMA. You're going to go to the 100 EMA 5 minute. That's what you're going to look for. We have 40 points available. It's the last little trade. So let's break that down a little bit as we see it's unfolding right now for the crew. We hit a really important golden fib right here. Yesterday's highs for the gap fill and higher low all right here. And then we had a little bit of a chop, right? But we had a higher high, micro, higher low, grind back up, and then we're almost to the target, right? So those worked pretty well. And let's look at confirmations here on the auto oscillation. Bam. So we do have, this is what I said in chat, the MACD is now signaling reset time. So we had the full dump in the morning back to yesterday's highs. The MACD and RSI are signaling, hey, we need to relax. We can't go in a straight line. Nothing in the stock market goes for a straight line, right? So came all the way down to the gap fill, push 1, higher low, push 2, and then we got this really ugly push 3 coming in for our target of the 100 EMA magnet back test 5 minute. And the MACD did show us that was kind of coming for about a half hour. The RSI showed us it was coming. And the biggest catalyst for all of this for me was the VIX. Now, the volatility index has gaps. And again, I'm huge on gaps and fibs. Those are my 2 number 1 things that we always use here. The gap that we had right here on the daily chart for VIX was at $14.45. And you also hear me say first tag a lot, right? Those are top metrics for us. So something first tags a gap, it usually does the opposing move, it opposite, right? So if we have a gap right here, let's take a peek. Huge one from the presidential and VIX. Price action down. Bump, first tag. This is its first attempt right here. That candle, 11:15. First time the VIX has entered into the gap that has not been entered before. Did it fill? Absolutely not. Rejected completely. Let's take a peek at what's happening today for first gap tag metrics. We talk about this a lot. Gap, first tag. Does that mean it's going to instantly fly up from here? No, the VIX could just sit still. But the volatility index touching this for the first time, there is a high percentile chance that you just will not see it flow through the gap and close right away. It just will not close that gap the first time it attempts it. Has things filled first tag, first gap? Of course. Everything's in the stock market is going to do whatever it wants to do. There's not one thing that's 100% consistent in the market, except for you will lose money if you FOMO. So ding, target filled. So my crew just hopefully made a little 40-point banger there because we came up to that call before we got off stream. That was my last call for the live. So now we have a chance to grind back to those highs, right? Because this whole week is going to be low volume grinders. We have now hit all the targets to the downside on QQQ that we had posted on X. We have SPY closing all gaps last week into the new gap this week. So last but not least, we'll take a quick recap on that. We got the gap 1, 2, and then we had the third right here. And then I said 3 gaps on the daily in the same exact price action. I've never seen it hold. So That's good consistency there. Filled the common gap. Now we got a gap and go here. And I said we'd get all-time highs potential because we have nothing to backtest. Gap 1 is filled. Gap 2 is filled. Gap 3 was the common. So after all 3 of these gaps have been filled, what's left? Well, let's head back up, right? Low, low, low holiday volume week, right? And that's generally long, but it's also generally grindy. So far, that pre-market little push right there was not grindy, but it is what it is. So it worked out. This was our over-under level here for SPY. That is obviously the last no tag. We'll go back here if you didn't see it, of a GP candle as well that we had last week. This was the GP candle. It's very similar. It's exactly what we did on Qs. They're just in different positions. So this fib box right here walked the self down to the 2618 as I showed you on QQQ. Then it walked back up to the 1618 to the 100. Once it enters the 100 fib, which is inside the box, once it gets inside right here, the fib, we have a chance to go to golden pocket. We got that on Friday. Then we gap and go the rest. So when this decides to come back down after the week or whatever, we will fill this gap eventually because we do deserve the fibs of this no tag to happen, right? But if you back that up, we also have this doji top that we had price action with and the all-time high doji that we had now filled. So that's great. This is the only candle left. So if we're looking to the left of current price action and we draw a box and we go, okay, all of these from here to here is what today gave me, okay? This is today, right? I look to my left, whacked, whacked, whacked. Okay, I don't have to worry about any of the Fibonacci algo magnets for any of those candles because this range destroyed them. What do I have to look for? This gap fill. That is it. So do we get the further little grind to gap fill to this for the rest of the week and then we drop down into December and go, or do we drop down a little bit harder in December than Santa Rally? Who knows? We're active day traders, man. We trade this stuff live every day, reactive to the chart. We don't guess unless we got really good indicator setup, right? No such thing as a crystal ball. So with that being said, we have all this room to the downside, in my opinion, on SPY. So the last trade I gave everybody, I said QQQ long to the 100 EMA above the 10. That was going to give you your 40, okay? And I said this is the early point of the trade. I told my chat, you should have played this above the 10 SMA to the 100 with no other long in your brain here. Over the 10 SMA, dink, got it. Now it's going to head back down, and I said we have chance to the 666 5-minute today for the short side after, and then I said SPY for my premium group. We have an opportunity to use this 597.80 as an over-under because now we are in common gap. So now all that's left for the day is to watch this over-under at 597.80. We breakpoint that, it's going to go for the fill. And then it just becomes a common gap. I have a high sneaking suspicion that still can happen very easily. Why? Well, we just talked about the volatility index, right? If the volatility index does a first tag, no fill at the daily gap, VIX has a chance to what? Hold and kind of go back up a little bit before it comes back down, right? Because it's first tag. Even if it just wants to do this, which VIX has been a useless indicator for a while now, but if it just wants to chill sideways, that's fine. It's still going to give the market the availability to go down. But if we do bounce that first gap tag like we have been doing just a smidge here this morning, that's what's going to give us our opportunity to see the common gap fill on SPY now. So I'm switching bias now after my 40-point call at the 100 EMA. Switch it down, short SPY under this level, all the way down. Let's go to yesterday's highs. So fill the gap. Those are the two trades I told my crew to look at right after this. So with that being said, if you want to come watch this stuff live, trade with us. Link is in the description. We do this stuff every morning. If that sounds good, we'll see you in chat. If not, we'll see you on the next YouTube video. Take care.